Dogface here. Today we start a new project. This one's kind of certainly a maker project, and probably wondering why I have these lights flashing. Well, this is an old police flasher, and if you saw that in your rearview mirror, that's the beginning of a bad day. I'm going to kill that because it doesn't show on video, but it is obnoxiously bright. So, what's this all about? So I've got an old garage door opener. I replaced my garage door opener and salvaged this because it looked like it had all sorts of neat and useful parts. I have the police flasher. I've got the lights, or the remote controls, and then I've got this box here, which some of you may be old enough to recognize as something that holds CDs. It's actually used back in the day for holding CDs with games. You had a place for your CD on one side and then the instructions on the other. So that's all junk. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to create a YouTube light, because the problem is when I start recording, I live in a house with other people and the family members are off doing their things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the remote control from this old garage door opener, this police light, and I'm going to put the police light on top of the case like this. I'm going to put the parts and pieces. If we turn this around, there's all sorts of great pieces in the back of this old garage door opener. So I'm going to salvage the remote control portion, put it inside this box. There's relays and power changers. Power changers, not the right thing to say. What is it? Reduces the voltage, right? So it takes the AC in, converts it to DC. Hopefully we can figure it's already in there, but if not, we'll figure out how to convert the power. And then I'll have this neat little box that I can plop down, and when I record, I can push the button. See the little light in there? So that'll turn this flashing light on, and the family knows that I'm recording. And then when I'm done, I can push it again. So literally I can be in one room, they can be in the other. They can be quiet while I'm recording, and then they're not sitting there trying to be like church mice when I'm doing the setups, because as you well know, doing a YouTube video takes a lot of setup and tear down, and there's a lot of time when you're not recording. So that's the project. Let's dig into it a little bit. I've never played with a cop light before this project, and it's kind of cool. It just runs on 12 volts in red and black. But what's interesting is you can change the flashing pattern. So you can, as you just touch this white wire to the hot lead, you get different flashing patterns. I didn't know you could do that. So anyway, I've seen a lot of these patterns, not that I get pulled over, but I've seen other people seeing these patterns. So there you go. And that's probably the one I'm going to end up using. That way, just a red and white light. It's not going to drive the family crazy. So anyway, just in case you didn't know, that's how cop light works. Here's the back side of this old garage door opener, and it's just got an absolute treasure trove of parts that can be used for this project and other projects. So obviously we've got this big nice motor here. I'm not sure where I'd use that, but probably we'll keep that. This is the piece really that I'm after right here. This is the remote sensor. This is what the door opener connects to, and it looks simple enough. There's just 3 wires. We'll need to figure out what voltage it is and what kind of signals are sent out of here so we can use them to turn on my cop light. And then on this side we've got a bunch of relays, and there's looks like some sort of a rectifier and transformer down here, so hopefully those are useful. It's got this nice power cord, so I'm going to reuse that. We'll reuse this to power the thing. So just really a great starting place for this project. First things first though, I've got to figure out what signal this is sending. I played with it a little bit, and one of the problems I have is that it still thinks it doesn't think. It's totally missing the sensors. These are the sensors that go to the bottom of the door that stop the door from crushing things and people if they get blocked. And so it thinks that there's something blocking the signal. And so in order to get the motor to choose, you have to push and hold this button. And I don't know where the logic for that is, if it's on this chip or if there's some logic over here. These wires end on this side. So I'm hoping this just simply reads the signal from the door opener, and I don't have to get into figuring out some sort of bodge to trick this into thinking that there is a signal there. So I guess first things first, I'm just going to kind of open it up a bit so I can get a better look at it. So with that said, I think what I'll do is I'll speed you up and we'll see what we can get on the inside, and then I'll stop if any interesting bits come as we're going along the trip. Spent some time trying to reverse engineer this. There's some proprietary chips on this power board. This is right here where my finger's at, right at the corner. This is the controller for the remote, and it's same thing. I couldn't find these. I think this is about 20 years old, so it's an old garage door opener. So couldn't find it, so decided to hook the oscilloscope up to it just to see what happens when you trigger it. And you can see up here the yellow line is running about 8 volts. The upper line, which is the power line, runs at 25 volts, give or take. And if you watch this LED here, when I push the remote control button, isn't that slick? Stop that so you can see what's going on. Anyway, for the time that the light's on, it drops it to 0. And it does that every single time you push the remote. So on this power board, there's also some logic that tests and looks for the sensors on the garage door, which I don't have. So it's going to work out pretty good. I'm not going to have to figure out any of the logic here. I'll just throw an Arduino on here and it'll just watch it to drop the voltage, and that will be the signal to change the state of the light. So that's going to be some dead easy programming. So next step is to figure out the power supply for this guy. This is running at 25 volts input. It's wonky voltage as far as I can tell, but whatever, we'll figure out how to provide it voltage off the 110. And so that's it. Next steps we'll start talking about and showing the design on this guy. I figured some stuff out on this. When I pulled this out of the circuit and just ran it standalone, the neat little triggering signal no longer worked. So I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bodge a wire in for this LED, and that's where I'll get my triggering signal. The other thing I did was I played around with the input voltages, so it's running on 24, 25 volts, I forget what it was. It's been some time since that other video was made. Anyway, I played around with different input voltages to see what this would actually work on. And what appears to happen is as the voltage goes lower, the distance that the remote control works gets shorter. So kind of had a happy coincidence that the cop light there, that runs on 12 to 24 volts. This guy works just fine on 19 volts. So what that means is how we're going to power this thing is with that. That is a power supply for a laptop computer, in this case a Hewlett-Packard. So it's a good, properly designed power supply. And there you go. Cost all of $1.99 at Goodwill. So I'll just cut this and hack into the wires here for the power, and then we'll be good as far as that's concerned. The other thing that I found out in testing is this LED. When you push the main button here, opens the garage door when it was in place, and then there were these auxiliary buttons that never used in our house, but what it does is it makes the LED, this LED, flash quickly. So what's cool about that is I'm going to be able to program a logic in, so if it sees a quick flash, it's going to run, change the flash pattern on the cop light. Remember how if you ground or you apply hot to that white wire on the cop light, it changes the pattern. So we've done all of that, and I've done this as well. So this is the beginning of the prototype. So I've got a couple of relays in here. Got our Arduino Nano. He'll be doing the brain work on this, and so I can breadboard this in. I'll finish that up, and then I'll show you what the results of that looks like. Here's the finished prototype. Put a bodge wire into the receiver off of the old garage door. That comes in, feeds the Arduino as the signal for the on and off. Goes in, we've got the relays and a bunch of doodads that are needed in order to make that work. I'll go into that in another video. And so now what we've got is we push the button and it turns on. So that'll be letting the family know, hey, YouTube video being recorded, no talkie. Now, that's the polite, solid light, but if they're out there chatting and I'm like, okay, enough, I need your attention. So now when I push the button, you can see the side button, it switches to the different patterns. And then when I'm done recording, I push this button again and it goes off. So it's pretty slick, and I think that's going to work well. Next steps, which I'm going to do in another video, we've got to get all of that onto this little project board. And then we're going to put it inside the box. We'll do all the connections. We'll get rid of all this prototype work and make it into a permanent board. So till that video, y'all like, subscribe. It's important to subscribe in today's YouTube world. Boy, subscribers are everything. So if you don't do anything, just click on that subscribe button. Just mash that thing, okay? And until the next video, y'all have a nice day.